Good day to you. This is Mr. Mlenga, your teacher of geography. So today I want us to look at geography paper 1, that is 2025 GCE. So without wasting much of the time, I would like us to go to section A, and we shall start from question 13 for question 1, and for question 1 to 12 we shall have a specific video looking at map reading. So for today I just want us to start from question 13, and that is section B, elements of physical geography. So to start with, we shall look at question 13, which says, when the sun is overhead at the Tropic of Cancer, which areas on earth will experience total darkness? So for you to understand this question, what is key is for you to know the position of the sun. So when the sun is overhead at the Tropic of Cancer, it means it is at 23.5 degrees north of the equator. So if it is 23.5 degrees north of the equator, that means that the part of the earth that will experience total darkness will be the furthest part south of the equator, since the sun is north of the equator when it is overhead at the Tropic of Cancer. So in this case, the best possible answer is D, south of latitude 66.5 degrees south. Let's get to question 14. Now question 14 says, if it is 22 hours in Lusaka, 30 degrees east, what is the time in Shanghai, 120 degrees east? Now here you need to know first of all the rule of finding time. Now what is key when you're trying to calculate time is first of all to find the difference in longitude. So how do you find the difference in longitude? If you have been given two longitudes that are on the same side, you need to always subtract. If you have been given longitudes that are on different sides, one is in the east, the other longitude is in the west, you need to add. So when longitudes are on the same side, you always need to subtract, and when the longitudes are on different sides, you always need to add. So in this question, the longitude that we've been given, 30 degrees east and 120 degrees east, they are on the same side, meaning what we're going to do is to subtract. So we're just going to say 120 minus 30. For 120 minus 30, what are you going to have? 120 minus 30, you're going to have 90. So the difference in longitude is 90 degrees. So what do we do with this 90 degrees? What you do with this 90 degrees is you're going to convert it into hours. So how do you convert longitudes into hours? We already know that 1 hour is equal to 15 degrees. 1 hour is equal to 15 degrees. 1 hour is equal to 15 degrees. Now, what about 90 degrees? So what you're going to do is, since we are looking for hours, you're just going to put x is equal to 90 degrees. X is equal to 90 degrees. X is equal to 90 degrees. So what you're going to do here, you're just going to cross multiply. So 1 hour multiplied by 90, then x multiplied by 15. You're going to have 15x. You're going to have 15x is equal to 90 degrees is equal to 90. So you're going to divide both sides by 15. So you're going to say 15, then here 90 over 15. 90 over 15. So we are just going to cancel this. You cancel that. So 15 into 90, what are you going to have? You're going to have 6. So this 6, you found 6 hours. The 6 hours you found, what you're going to do is you're going to check on the time that you've been given in the question. So remember, time increases as you move towards the east. So the further you move towards the east, the more the time increases. Then time decreases towards the west. So the further you move towards the west, the more time decreases. So in this case, since you've been given 22 hours, Lusaka, 30 degrees east. In Shanghai, you expect the time to be ahead since it is 120 degrees east. So if it is 22 hours in Lusaka, and we are looking for the time for Shanghai in at 120 degrees east, so it is ahead by 6 hours. So what you're going to do is you're just going to add 6 hours to 22:30. So if you add 6 hours to 22:30, you're going to have 04:30. 04:30 hours the following day. It won't be the same day because you would have moved to the next day. So first possible answer on question 14 is A, 04:30 the following day. So now let's get to question 15. What would be the angle of elevation of the midday sun for a place on latitude 80 degrees north on 21st June? So when you look at this question, what is key is for you to know the position of the sun. Remember, angle of elevation by definition is just basically the angle at which the sun strikes the earth. So in this case, you should know the position of the sun. So on 21st June, we all know that the sun is in the northern hemisphere at 23.5 degrees north. So in this case, when you have been given the latitudes that are in the same hemisphere, let's say both of them are in the northern hemisphere, you always subtract. But when you've been given latitudes that are in different hemisphere, one is in the northern hemisphere, the other one is in the southern hemisphere, you always add. So this is the formula for angle of elevation. So angle of elevation is equal to 90 minus 90 minus latitude, that is the latitude that you've been given. So you're always going to be given the latitude. So 90 minus the latitude. So in this case, if you check our question, we have been given the latitude, which is 80 degrees north. So here you're going to say latitude plus or minus overhead sun, plus or minus overhead sun. So for the overhead sun, we've been told that it is 21st June. So you need to know where the sun is on 21st June. You need to know where the sun is on 21st June. So we all know that the sun on 21st June is at 23.5 degrees north of the equator. North of the equator. Yes, so when finding angle of elevation, what is key is for you to know the position of the sun. So in this case, since we've been given 21st June, we know that the sun on 21st June is in the northern hemisphere at 23.5 degrees north. Then we know that on 22nd December, the sun is in the southern hemisphere at 23, directly overhead the Tropic of Capricorn at 23.5 degrees south. Then we know that on 23rd September and on 21st March, the sun is directly overhead the equator, and in this case, that is when we have equinox. That is equal days, equal nights. So how are we going to find angle of elevation in this case? So angle of elevation is equal to, so we've already been given the latitude, so we are going to say 90 degrees minus the latitude that we've been given is 80 degrees. So you say 90 degrees minus 80. Then the overhead sun that we've been given is 23.5 degrees north. So since the latitudes are in the northern hemisphere, both of them, we are going to subtract. So you're going to say 80 minus 23.5 degrees. 80 minus 23.5 degrees. So upon finding that, you're going to have 90. You're going to have 90 minus, now what is 80 minus 23? So 80 minus 23.5 degrees is going to give us 56.5. So you're going to find 56.5 degrees. So 56.5 degrees, you're going to subtract it from 90 degrees. So you're going to say 90 minus 56.5 degrees. So in this case, you're going to find 33.5 degrees. You're going to find 33.5 degrees. 33.5 degrees. So in this case, the best possible answer is B. The best possible answer on this question is B. Now let's get to question 16. Now question 16 says, when outcrops of the rocks occur at right angles to the main valley, what type of drainage pattern is formed? Now, the type of drainage pattern that is formed when you just see right angle, you need to always remember that it is trellis pattern. So the best possible answer on question 16 is D. Now let's get to question 17. Now question 17 says, the following are the factors influencing the rate of weathering except. Now all these are factors that influence the rate of weathering except one. So the best possible answer on question 17 is the Earth's rotation on its axis. So the Earth's rotation on its axis does not affect or influence the rate of weathering. So the best possible answer on question 17 is B. Let's get to question 18. Now study the following diagram and answer question 18. Now if you look at this diagram, it is clearly indicating that there is movement of mass. So the best possible answer on question 18, which says the process shown is an example of mass movement. So the best possible answer on question 18 is B, mass movement. Let's get to question 19. Now question 19 says residual mountains are also known as mountains of. Now this is very simple. Residual mountains are also known as mountains of denudation. The ones that are known as mountains of elevation are Ford mountains. So you need to know that. Let's get to question 20. Now question 20 says traction is an example of transportation. Remember, transportation occurs quite in several forms, and traction happens to be one of them. Now let's go to question 21. Study the following diagram and answer question 21. So you need to look at this diagram. This is a question that is coming from the topic volcanicity. Now on this particular topic, you need to know that there are those intrusive volcanic features and extrusive volcanic features. And one of those extrusive volcanic features, those features that form on surface of the earth, are lava plateaus. So the other features that are intrusive that you need to pay particular attention to are laccolith as well as lopolith, including batholith. Now if you look at this question, the question is saying which one of the following combinations correctly names the feature? So we have P, Q and R. So P, this feature that you're seeing here, is an extrusive feature. It is a feature that has been formed on the surface of the earth, meaning that is a lava plateau. It is a lava plateau. Now let's get to Q. Now Q is a laccolith. Q is a laccolith. Then R is a lopolith. This is the one that looks like a saucepan, a saucer. So R is a lopolith, Q is a laccolith, then P is lava plateau. Now let's get to question 22. Which of the following are not erosional features of a river? Which of the following are not erosional features of a river? Now this is very simple, because we know that as the river is passing through different stages, it causes a lot of erosion, and some of the erosional features include plunge pools, potholes, as well as valleys. So a braided stream is not an erosional feature. So the best possible answer on question 22 is braided streams. Let's get to question 23. Now question 23 says the correct order of the formation of a delta is, now you know that a delta is what you find at the mouth of a river. This is where the river ends. So a delta is a feature that forms right where the river ends, right where the river calls or joins other water bodies like oceans. So a delta basically forms as a result of deposition. So deposition must be the last part, because it is a feature that is found right at the mouth of a river. So the best possible answer, if you look at question 23, is transportation, erosion and deposition. Let's get to question 24. Study the following bar graph for station X and answer question 24 and 25. Now if you look at this bar graph, you have months right here at the bottom from January to December. If you look at the sides on the right, you have rainfall indicated in millimeters. Then on the left you have temperature. Now if you critically analyze this bar graph, you are able to tell to say between the months of May and September there is no rainfall, but from January to April you have a bit of rainfall with a maximum of somewhere around 35 millimeters. Then from October to December you also have a bit of rainfall to a maximum of somewhere around 30 to 35 millimeters. Now that is not enough rainfall, and the only region where you expect to find such a small amount of rainfall and very high temperatures beyond 20 to 40 degrees Celsius is the hot desert. So the best possible answer on this particular question is B, hot desert. Let's get to question 25. Which of the following is the characteristic of vegetation of station X? Trees are. Now, if you look at the hot deserts usually have drought-resistant trees. Those trees that can resist long periods of no rainfall, long periods of no water. So the best possible answer is on question 25 is A, which says trees are drought resistant, because you are looking at a hot desert. Let's get to question 26. Now, question 26 says, which of the following describes the characteristic features of vegetation in Mediterranean region? Now, we all know that Mediterranean regions are evergreen forests. They also have open woodland as well as coarse pasture. So the best possible answer on question 26 is B, evergreen forests, open woodland, and coarse pasture. Let's get to question 27. It says, plants in hot deserts have adapted to their environment in the following ways, except having. So the best possible answer is A, broad leaves. Plants in hot deserts do not need to have broad leaves, because when a plant has broad leaves, it loses a lot of water. Remember, plants lose water through the stomata of the leaves. So if a plant has broad leaves, it loses a lot of water. So you do not need to have plants with broad leaves in hot deserts, because such plants can lose a lot of water, and in the end they can easily wilt. So the best possible answer is A, broad leaves. The rest of these options are basically adaptive features of plants in hot deserts. Let's look at this beautiful map of Africa. Now, this map on question 28 is giving us different regions. You have region 1 in the northern part of Africa. Then you have region 2, quite a broad region. Then you have region 3. You have region 4 as well. Now, region 1 is existing somewhere around in the northern part of Africa and the southern tip of Africa. Now, looking at question 21, question 21 says, which statement is correct about the climatic region in the shaded areas? Which statement is correct about the climatic region in the shaded areas? Let's look at region 1. Region 1, right at the bottom, bottom tip of Africa, and the northern part of Africa, the northernmost part of Africa. This region, you expect to find Mediterranean type of climate. Then region 2, this region, this is where you expect to find savanna type of temperature, savanna type of vegetation, savanna climate in general. Then region 3, this is where you expect to find the equatorial region, the equatorial rainforest, where it rains throughout the year. Then region 4 is obviously hot desert, because it is in this region where you find even the Namib desert. So the best possible answer on this particular question is D, Mediterranean, region 1, then region 2, savanna, region 3, equatorial, and region 4, hot desert. Now let's get to question 29. Question 29 says, which one of the following vegetative characteristics best describes trees of savanna climate? Now, in savanna climate, the types of trees that you expect to find are deciduous trees. Now, deciduous trees are trees that shed off leaves, and they do so because they want to minimize loss of water during periods where there is no rainfall or when there is less water. Halophytic trees are those trees that survive and thrive so well in salinity or soils with a lot of salt. Parasitic trees are those trees that depend entirely or partially for food on other trees. So these are plants that grow on other plants and partially or entirely depend on other plants for food. Then xerophytic trees are those trees that you find in drought prone areas, like hot deserts. So on question 29, the best possible answer is A, deciduous trees, because these are trees that you expect to find in savanna climatic regions. Let's get to question 30. Now question 30 has the map of Africa. Study the map of Africa and answer question 30. Now question 30 says, which of the areas W, X, Y, or Z experience summer rain? Now summer rain is experienced, in the tropics, and that is where you find this region, the W region. So the best possible answer on question 30 is A. Let's get to question 31. Now question 31 says, the western portions of Africa between latitude 30 and latitude 20 and latitude 30 north and south of the equator are always dry due to. So the best possible answer on question 31 is offshore trade winds blowing. Now you need to understand the difference between offshore trade winds and onshore trade winds. So the difference between offshore trade winds and onshore trade winds is that the onshore trade winds are those winds that are blowing from the sea to the land. Then the offshore trade winds are those winds that are blowing from the land to the sea. So you expect the winds that are blowing from the land to other parts or the sea to be less moist or to be very dry. Then you expect the winds that are blowing from the sea to be highly moist or to have a lot of water or moisture. So in this case, the offshore trade winds, since they are winds that blow from the land to other parts or surrounding areas, you expect them to be very dry. That is why the western portions of Africa between latitude 20 degrees and 30 degrees north and south of the equator are always dry, because they receive offshore trade winds towards those areas. Let's get to question 32. Now question 32 says, why are trees in the savanna climate umbrella shaped? Now the reason is simple. They are umbrella shaped in order, to protect the roots from the sun. So the best possible answer on question 32 is A, to protect the roots from the sun. Now let's get to section C, where we are now going to look at the elements of world geography. Now section C is, predominantly grade 11 work. So question 33 says, man has contributed towards environmental degradation through. So the best possible answer on question 33 is monoculture. Now monoculture, this is a practice of growing the same type of crop on the same piece of land for a long time. So that is a danger to the environment, because if you are growing the same type of crop on the same piece of land for a long time, you are going to destroy the fertility of the soil. So the best possible answer on question 33 is B, monoculture, because this is the practice of growing the same type of crop on the same piece of land for a long time, and that affects the fertility of the soil. Let's get to question 34. Now question 34 says, the following are as a result of desertification except. Now all these are a result of desertification except plant biodiversity. Plant biodiversity. When there is desertification, you won't expect a variety of plants to grow or to thrive. So the best possible answer on question 34 is D, plant biodiversity. Let's get to question 35. Sex ratio is the number of. Now sex ratio is the number of males per 100 females in a population. Sex ratio is the number of males per 100 females in a population. So the best possible answer on question 35 is B, males per 100 females in a population. Let's get to question 36. The actual reproductive period for a woman is dash years. So the actual reproductive period for a woman is 15 years to 49 years. It is between this period you expect a woman to be able to give birth to a child. Of course, generally looking at the medics and these physicians, specialists, they always encourage women to give birth to at least the age of 35. But in actual sense, a woman can be able to give birth to a child between the age of 15 and 49 years. So that is the actual reproductive period of a woman. So the best possible answer on question 36 is B, 15 to 49 years. Let's get to question 37. Now question 37 says, which of the following is a characteristic of shifting cultivation? Now we all know that shifting cultivation is a traditional method of farming. So this traditional method of farming is primarily based on growing of crops for own consumption. It is commercial farming that focuses on growing of crops for the purpose of selling. So the best possible answer on question 37 is A. So crops are mainly grown for consumption. So the best possible answer here is A. Let's get to question 38. Now, if you look at question 38, it is giving us the world map, and on this particular map, you're able to see these shaded areas. Now, these shaded areas are the ones in geography we call the tundras. So these are the tundras. Now, tundras are regions that are very cold. The temperatures are so low that even people there, they tend to, suffer from very low temperatures, and that is why in such areas you don't even find a lot of people. So if you look at question 38, it is saying which of the following correctly describes the population density of the shaded area. So the best possible answer on question 38 is C, sparse due to low temperatures. So there are very few people in the tundras in those areas because of low temperatures. Let's get to question 39. Now question 39 says, what term is used for towns that develop, expand, and merge? So the best possible answer on question 39 is A, conurbation. So conurbation, this is where towns that develop and expand merge. So that point where towns merge is what we call a conurbation. Depending on where you are, perhaps you might be in a place or in a town that is growing outwards, and come years in future, such a town will be able to merge with the nearby towns. And at that point where the two towns merge is what we call a conurbation. Urban sprawl is basically the outward growth of a town. When the town is growing outwards and expanding to nearby places, that is what we call urban sprawl. Then a conurbation is that point where the towns merge. So the best possible answer on question 39 is A, conurbation. Let's get to question 40. In order to accelerate crop maturity and strength, the formation of roots in plants, farmers use. So the best possible answer here is calcium. Now calcium is used accelerate the rate at which a crop matures, as well as the strength of roots in plants. So the best possible answer on question 40 is calcium, because it is what we use in order to accelerate crop maturity as well as to strengthen the formation of roots in plants. Let's get to question 41. Now question 41 says, which one of the following does not result from overpopulation? Which one of the following does not result from overpopulation? So the best possible answer on question 41 is C, shortage of labor. You do not expect to have shortage of labor when you have a lot of people. When there is overpopulation, it is obvious that you're going to have even a lot of labor to choose from. So the best possible answer here is C, shortage of labor. The rest of these, you expect to have them when there is overpopulation. Let's get to question 42. Which one of the following is the ideal practice of farming in highly slopy lands. Now, if you look at highly slopy lands, these are places that are mountainous. These are places that have steep slopes. Now, if you're trying to practice farming in a place with a lot of slopy lands, the best method that you need to use is plowing across the slope. Plowing across the slope. So the best possible answer here is B. Now, this is what we call terracing farming. This is terracing farming. In other words, you can just simply call it plowing across the slope. So the best possible answer here is B. Let's get to question 43. Now, question 43 says, which of the following is not the best method to practice conservation farming? Now, if you want to practice conservation farming, there are several things that you need to do. For example, using organic cover, maintaining organic cover, using organic manure, avoiding soil compaction, as well as soil disturbance, mechanical soil disturbance. But applying more fertilizer is not a good method, because the more you apply fertilizer to the soil, the more you are going to affect its natural ability of fertility. So the best possible answer here is A, applying more fertilizer. Let's get to question 44. What type of farming has the highest productivity per hectareage? Now, the type of farming that has the highest productivity per hectareage is intensive farming. Now, intensive farming is a type of farming where you use only a small piece of land, but you produce a lot of things, a lot of crops, just using a small piece of land. So there is that maximization of land in order to produce a lot of produce using that small piece of land. Extensive farming can be productive, but it uses a huge piece of land. So in this case, the best possible answer is intensive farming, because it uses a small piece of land and produces a lot of products, a lot of crops, a lot of produce in general. So let's get to question 45. So on question 44, the best answer is C, intensive farming. Now, question 45 says, which one of the following is a cereal and drought resistant crop? So the best possible answer here is very simple. That is sorghum. So the answer here is C, sorghum. Let's get to question 46. Now, question 46 says, what is the most consumed type of crop in the world? What is the most consumed type of crop in the world? So the best possible answer is rice. Tell me a country that you know where they do not eat rice. I guess you failed to find one. So rice is the most consumed type of crop in the world. Let's get to question 47. Now, question 47 says, land is left to regain its fertility for some time of years before it is used again. This is called, now, this process is known as fallowing. Now, fallowing is where you leave land for some years or for some time in order for it to regain its fertility. If you've been cultivating on a small piece of land the same type of crop, let's say for 5 years, it is important that you abandon that piece of land for some time in order to allow it to regain its fertility. So that process is what we call fallowing. So the best possible answer on question 47 is B, fallowing. Let's get to question 48. Which of the following types of coal has the highest moisture and ash content? So the best possible answer here is C, lignite. Now, lignite has the highest moisture and ash content. We all know that anthracite is the best type of coal, which produces even very minimal or no smoke at all. So the best possible answer on question 48 is lignite, C. Let's get to question 49. Now, question 49 has a diagram which is showing us the stages that are involved in the production of electricity using water, using hydro. So this is hydropower generation. So if you look at hydropower generation, you have W here, which is the head pond or water reservoir. Then you have X there, which is a penstock, a pipe through which water passes. So this is a penstock, and you have a gate which can either be opened or closed. Right here. Then here you have a generator and the step-up transformer. Then these are transmission lines that transmit high voltage power or electricity. Then here you have a step down at Z. You have a step down transformer that reduces the voltage for it to be suitable to be distributed at low voltage to consumers. So this is basically a diagram that is showing us the production of electricity at the hydropower station. So question 49 says, which one of the points marked W, X, Y, or Z is a step-down transformer? Now this is very simple. The step-down transformer is expected to be found at Z here, where the voltage from the transmission cables is reduced in order to suit the distribution of low voltage to consumers, domestic use especially. Let's get to question 50. So the best possible answer on question 40 is D, which is Z. Now question 50 says, the Middle East, the highest producer of. Now in the Middle East, that's where you find the more oil than any other region in this world. So the Middle East is the largest producer of petroleum or crude oil. So that is the best producer. So the best possible answer on question 50 is C, petroleum. Now we've come to the end of this paper. Stay glued to the channel, for we'll be looking at question 1 to 12 map reading. Thank you for your time.